The Big Issue. Breaking down the issues that matter.
Hello, everyone. You're welcome to Leadership Podcast. It's another edition of The Big Issue. And of course, as usual, I'm your regular host, George Agba is my name. And of course, with me here in the studio is our in-house analyst, Henry Tohemba. You're welcome to this program. Well, the big issue for the day is ASUU strike, students' protests at airports, and the looming danger. Members of the National Association of Nigerian Students on Monday in Lagos blocked a section of the access road to the Murtala Muhammad International Airport in Lagos. And of course, the idea was to protest the lingering strike by the Academic Staff Union of universities. And of course, most flights in Lagos were affected. The protesting students carried placards having various inscriptions as they used vehicles to block inbound and outbound traffic from the Ajao to Hajj camp area of the airport road. The aggrieved varsity students protesting the 7-month industrial action by ASUU blocked the road around 8 a.m. till press at 4 p.m. A situation that caused gridlock and serious jam-packed of vehicles in that axis at the airport. And information reaching us is that tomorrow, the North Central Zone of the Student Union will be staging their own protests at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja. And of course, this is even coming as tomorrow the Industrial Court is going to rule on the matter before it, brought by the federal government, asking it to compel ASUU to return back to classrooms. Henry, the situation is very terrible. Is it with what we saw in Lagos yesterday, and now there is this planned protest in Abuja? Is it an Abuja-Lagos thing or it's nationwide? How are they intending to do it?
Thank you for that. I think it's a nationwide strike. So first of all,
protest.
First of all, the Nigerian students they want to occupy the major Nigerian cities. So after Lagos, they're coming back to Abuja. After Abuja, they are definitely going to Port Harcourt, one of the major cities because it's a nationwide stuff that they are planning. But before I could even say anything on the matter, I think the protest is much more. It's a manifestation of the frustration that Nigerian students has been passing through since as we embark on this strike on February 14th this year. Nigerian students have been frustrated. Some of them are not going to work. They are not doing anything. Some of them, the length they even pay in where they are schooling, they have expired. Some of them, cases of armed robbers penetrating into their houses and cutting away with all the study materials. We have heard so many stories about them. And I think the protest is much more of trying to say, let's take it to another level, ensuring that Nigerians still feel the pain of what they have been passing through for the past few months. Nigerian students, since as we embark on this strike, they try everything possible to make sure that federal government and also resolve the crisis. You could remember a few months ago when they were at the federal secretariat attacking the Minister of Education, asking for his to step down if he could not, for his resignation. Demonstrating, protesting at the federal secretariat, but all those protests failed to yield any positive result. And most of the time, Nigerians are too quick to judge, even blaming the leadership on us that have failed to live up to responsibility to ensure that the federal government follow this strike. So I think this time around, so many people may blame the student for blocking the major roads in the country and affecting economic activities and a lot of things. But I don't think that any responsible Nigerian will blame the student for carrying all such kind of protests. And just like you say, tomorrow will be the worst that we are going to experience because the information I just got this evening is that they are going to be blocking the flyover just before the airport, that is after Soka, as early as 8 a.m. That is when most people will be going to work and others will be going to airport to travel, and they are going to block everywhere and also block the Kaduna Abuja road. That means there will be no entrance to or from Abuja or Kaduna. So what?
Well, the situation now, Henry, is very dicey because it's like both the federal government and us who are not ready to shift ground, and the matter is before the court. And the fears by most Nigerians, especially stakeholders, is that if the students decide to take the law in their own hands, what they are just seeing as a peaceful protest might escalate into something that might wreak havoc. A situation where the students might bring up another kind of violent protest, just like what we observed during the NSAS protest. The federal government is in court insisting that ASUU must return to classroom. ASUU is not ready to shake ground, but the president met with the pro-chancellors last week, just before he traveled out of the country. In that meeting, I think he made certain kind of commitments to see if the strike will end. Are you saying the lecturers are not still ready to come back to the classroom?
Okay, thank you for that. That is the same issue that we have been discussing over and over again. Meeting with the pro-chancellors is not the main issue. It's just like you have issue with somebody and you bypass that person, you are meeting with the person who don't even have any solution for that particular issue. ASUU has been on strike. The pro-chancellors are not on the strike. So the expectation and the question that so many Nigerians has been asking is for the president to create an avenue where the leadership of ASUU will meet with him one-on-one as the father of the nation, no matter how angry that ASUU may be or for what they have been facing. If the president will create any avenue that the leadership of ASUU will meet with him one-on-one, I'm sure that as a father of the nation, ASUU will have one or two things to take away from that meeting and think about suspending this strike. But meeting with the pro-chancellors, they are not the ones on strike. So we are not sure whether anything can positive. We don't have to even hope anything positive coming out from that meeting.
But ASUU self is taking a risk, Henry, because the federal government, too, especially the Minister of Education, has been asking, not even them, I think even the pro-chancellors in the university came out to say ASUU should be democratized, a situation where its membership must not be compulsory. And in the event where the federal government proceeds in democratizing ASUU, the union becomes weak. Now, what now becomes of the union if lecturers pull out of this strike, just like we learned that some states have been pulling out of the ASUU strike? What now becomes of the of the union, the academic staff union?
You know, that is another challenge we have been having because since federal government made mention of that statement, he has not taken any concrete action to show us that seriously they are going to democratize ASUU or do something tangible that ASUU will know that no, now federal government is serious. If we don't call up this strike, maybe something drastic, a drastic action will be taken against us. Federal government just made mention of that, and concerning universities who are pulling out of the ASUU strike, especially state universities. Just yesterday, we heard that the Imo State University and are full of the strike. We spoke with the ASUU National Chairman, Professor Sodike. He denied that the union is still unshakable, that it will not back up the federal government meet up with their demand. So I think maybe talking about the protest, maybe we have tried everything to negotiate with ASUU to suspend the strike, and there seems to be no positive outcome. So maybe the student protest may be another avenue to ensure that, because this protest is not only going to affect the student, but everybody in this country is being affected by the protest that is going on nationwide. So this may be one way that federal government may consider to dissolve with ASUU or do anything possible with power to ensure that this strike is out of.
Well, let's quickly take a short break. When we come back, we are going to look at some of the demands ASUU is making before the federal government. Well, there are reports that the Kwara branch of the National Association of Nigerian Students have given the police and the authorities in the state their word that they are not going to embark on the protests at the airport. And this followed an appeal by the state police command that they should boycott the ongoing protests by the university students. Well, we'll be back in a moment, and as we go on this short interval, we hope that our viewers will begin to contribute to the conversation on the big issue by their way of comment. Don't go offline, we'll be back in a moment.
The Big Issue. Breaking down the issues that matter.
Welcome back. We're still on the big issue, and of course, the in leadership podcast, and of course, the big issue for the day is ASUU strike, students' protests at airport, and the looming danger. The strike, the protest embarked on by students is an indication that the university students Well, sorry for that heat. It was due to unforeseen technical faults. It was actually beyond our control. So as we were saying, Henry, the federal government is before the court, and the matter is coming up tomorrow at the National Industrial Court. And what the federal government is asking the court to do is to tell the lecturers to return back to classroom, whether they meet their demands or not. You know what that means? That amounts to forcing somebody to do. It seems the federal government is overwhelmed because the demands are very humongous. And most people, like the Minister of State for Labor, Festus Keyamo, is saying that ASUU is not the only sector in the country. I mean, the education. At the end of the day, the federal government has no such money to pay. Why is ASUU making such demands?
You know,
Demand that has even rattled the federal government.
talking about the demand, you made mention of code asking us to go back to classes whether their demand has been met or not. And I don't think, even as an ordinary Nigerian, I don't think that that is going to be possible because remember, when they first took this case to court, we said that because going by the judicial system of Nigeria, that we know this case may be prolonged than what we are expecting because it's not an easy case that you just sit one day and rule and ask us to go back to class. It's not going to work that way. And that the first meeting after they adjourned that case to September 16th or so, the ASU president who was reacting on the comment that the court may ask them to go to classes whether meeting up with their demands or not. He said that the court may rule in favor of the federal government, but he may not force the lecturer to go to class. That is to tell you that even if the federal government judge this case in favor of the court judge the case in favor of the federal government, ASUU may still remain adamant to go back to classes.
And that amounts to the flouting of a court order. You know the implication of contempt.
So
contempt.
The implication may be that you may decide to sack all the lecturers or bring in another set of people to continue with the education sector, or that may be the only action that we may have at hand. That may take longer time than we are expecting. A situation where Nigerian students will be staying at home for more than a year. So many things will be distorted in the academic calendar. First, the cancellation of a whole calendar, which will have serious impact on the students who are aspiring to get a university education.
Now, in this ongoing protest, are the students actually in one accord when it has to do? Because information reaching us is that the Kwara branch chapter of NANS have decided to back off from the protests following the appeal by the police command in the state. So in the event where some other branches refuse to embark on these protests, what now becomes of the protest? It won't make any meaningful impact.
Thank you for bringing up that issue. You know, apart from some branches refusing to join the student protest, you know, we have a very big issue that we are confronting right now. As we speak, you know, we still have two factions of NAM. The NAMs that are organizing the Abuja protest are, I think, is being led by one Farouk also that is claiming that is a NAM faction. They conducted their election just this year or towards the end of last month. So two factions have emerged now. So you cannot tell me that the other faction who is still claiming to be the leadership of the association can participate actively in this protest. So right now, even now at the national level, are even divided. So you cannot expect any positive result to come out of this protest that is going on nationwide.
So, but which is to your own understanding, which is the duly recognized now out of these two factions?
That is what we have been trying to find out because everybody is still claiming to be the NANS leadership. The other person is claiming that the National Election Committee voting announced him as the winner. So the other group is being backed up by the former leadership of NANS, Conrad Esonda Sifon, who is claiming that they were the ones who were responsible for the election and he emerged as a winner. So it has been difficult to now conclude and say who is the winner of the NANS National Association. I think the best thing, or if Nigerian students are hoping to even get anything positive out of this protest, is for them to come together as one. First of all, resolve the crisis, the leadership crisis, so that they'll be fighting with one voice.
Now, so far, the protest in Abuja will take place tomorrow.
It's taking place tomorrow by 8 a.m.
By 8 a.m. And the students are ready for it.
The students are ready for it. We have so many students within this vicinity of Abuja
and
Nasarawa, Kefi, surrounding Zuba.
Okay, so it means that even the students, the ones from Nasarawa,
that is how they organize the structure.
Niger State, all will congregate.
Why those who coming to all that Abuja Kaduna side will occupy the Abuja Kaduna road. Those who this side will occupy the airport road. So we're wondering the situation that we're going to face in the country tomorrow.
Well, we've all heard it. Those of you staying at the airport, it will be very tough tomorrow because just like what happened in Lagos, the traffic will be heavy following the protests by the National Association of Nigerian Students, who are poised to block that part of the Federal Capital Territory. And of course, their protests, according to some Nigerians, is genuine because the students can't stay at home this long and you expect them to fold their hands. And it amounts to them taking the laws into their hands since ASUU and the federal government cannot reach a nexus of understanding. They feel it is by the protest that something will be done about their continuous stay at home. Well, we just hope that the impasse between the federal government and the academic staff union of university is addressed. The fear is that the protests started by Nigerian students might turn out to become something more dangerous and become more destructive than even what the strike itself is actually pushing for. That is the much we can take for today's edition of The Big Issue. I thank your viewers for keeping tab with us out there, and of course, our in-house analyst Henry for joining us in this program. Join us same time tomorrow for another edition of The Big Issue. Have a wonderful day.